It is Tuesday, December 6th at 7:31 a.m. and I have just finished cutting the vlog that you will have seen on Wednesday. I am going to go take a shower and get ready for the day and go to work. This vlog is going to be today and tomorrow. On Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, my life feels to me boring. And I always say that in the vlogs, but the reality is what's boring to me, because I do it every day, could be really, really interesting to other people. So I am going to try and explain my job a little bit more in depth than I have before, and maybe answer some questions. If I put something on Instagram, I will do that right now, actually. I washed my hair on Friday. I try and only wash my hair once a week, but it's kind of rough. I'm gonna go one more day, and we'll see how it is. My husband selfishly needs to get ready for work, so that's all you get to see.
Category is shades of brown. Final look. I have to put lip gloss on, but other than that, I just took a sneak peek at the weather, and it turns out the high today is 58.
Fuck that.
Fuck that, indeed. So I've added another tone of brown to my outfit with the jacket. Hey, Tony, you have something to say? Hello, people. Oh, that's right. I don't like you can see the ring light I set up here in my glasses, so glasses off for this. I'm back from work. It's 7 o'clock, and I think I mentioned this morning that I put an Instagram story up, and I'm sorry, it's the end of the day, so this is like right when my brain turns to mush. Okay. The Instagram story said, ask me questions about my work. And I just checked, and there were some questions, which was exciting. And there were some really good ones, actually. But I, on my Instagram stories, gave a little bit of a context of what I do for a living. And I think that's why I got such good ones. So I'm going to give you guys the same context here. If you're longtime viewers, this is old news, so I'll just do it quickly. Basically, currently, on top of what most of you know me for, which is being an editor for Sierra Schulte here on YouTube, I mostly just do that on the side on my nights and weekends. Primarily, my full-time 9 to 5 Monday through Friday job is I'm a post-production manager at Legendary Entertainment in their television division. So I manage post-production for all of the shows we have going, which at the moment is 6 shows going. A lot of them are in post, so we are definitely busy, and it being about to be the holidays, I'm slammed. Okay, I'm going off. I'm rambling too much. Let me think about this. But before I came to Legendary, which is a production studio, we do the Dune content, Godzilla content, Godzilla vs. Kong, and so much more. Some TV shows I've worked on in my tenure there have been Carnival Row, Paper Girls, Night Sky. I don't know, but we had a lot of really good ones about to come out in 2023. Anyway, before that, I worked freelance on the show side, the production side of things, primarily as a post-production supervisor. I've done shows for CBS, TNT, BET, Hulu, Amazon, Apple, HBO Max, years and years of working freelance show to show, which I really loved, but I was getting super burnt out on, which is how I moved to the studio last January. And that is what I do for a living. So post-production is my life. I love it so much. And let me dive into these questions. I'll just go in the order of questions that I like. A lot of these questions are my friends asking me joke questions. So let me answer your actual questions. Do I ever meet actors? Nowadays, not so much. Back when I was working on shows, so pre-2022, yes, I met actors all the time, mostly through a process called ADR, which is dialogue replacement. If we would rather put different words in an actor's mouth, or if something was wrong with the way we recorded something, we often have actors come back and record. I have some great stories with some fantastic actors through these ADR sessions. I also have some horror stories and some well-loved actors who are absolute assholes, but I'm not here to put them on blast yet. Let's see, I have so many good ones. Well, one time I had to schedule ADR with Elliot Gould. I did a show on CBS called Doubt. It only ran for one season, but I loved it. It was a legal procedural starring Katherine Heigl, and I'm so upset that I didn't do better than it did. But anyway, Elliot Gould played the boss. Obviously, longtime movie fans will know who Elliot Gould is, and TV fans, he was, what are their names? He was Monica and Ross's dad on Friends. Anyway, I was young, early in my career, and I scheduled an ADR session with him, and I didn't even get to go because at that time I was a coordinator. I wasn't supervising and directing those. But he called me after the session was over to tell me that he really appreciated what I was doing for the show, and that he knows that no job is too small, and he just wanted to call and give a sincere appreciation for the work that I do. And at the time he was shooting Ocean's 8, the one with the newer one, and he was telling me about Sandra Bullock and his time on set. And it was just, I put it on speakerphone in the office because my supervisor could not believe what was happening, but it was just one of those things that shows you like what an old school, wonderful man that is, and why he keeps getting work and why he's generally beloved in the industry. That's one of my favorite ADR stories. I have a million more, but I'll just leave you guys with that one. How did I get into my line of work? I got into working on TV shows because when I graduated, or before I graduated college, I knew that's what I wanted to do. I did not know. I thought maybe I wanted to work in post, but I didn't know enough about how the industry worked. I was a college student in New Orleans, nowhere near Los Angeles, and so I wasn't sure exactly how to get into post-production or what I knew I wanted to be a production manager. I wanted to manage people. I'm not an artist. I don't consider myself an artist. I'm a manager with a creative streak and a love for TV. So I just, basically what I knew I needed to do was just get on set and the rest would work itself out from there, which is so true because this industry is all about connections and networking. And I had no connections. All I had was the fact that I lived in New Orleans, which I didn't know at the time, but was a huge advantage and a huge piece of advice I give to many people who want to work in this industry is don't go to New York or Los Angeles. Go to a smaller town that has a tax incentive credit where production is happening. This is New Orleans, Atlanta, Toronto, Vancouver, Quebec, Boston, Chicago, Philadelphia, places where they're shooting and they need local work. They need local workers because it's cheaper and right to work states. Louisiana is a right to work state. So basically what I did was my last semester of college, I went part-time as a student. I went on the New Orleans Film Commission website and I saw they listed all of the productions that were currently shooting in New Orleans at that time and the location of their production offices. I rented a car because I didn't have a car. I went to a Kinko's and printed out this resume that I made. I really had no relevant experience. I had been like a camp counselor and a yoga teacher, but I made it work. I bullshitted a resume and I drove to every single one of those production offices and I put my resume down. And long story short, it's all about just putting your full heart into what you want to do. The job I got was eventually on NCIS New Orleans as a producer's assistant, and through the connections I made at NCIS New Orleans, I met the head of post at CBS, who gave me my first gig when I moved out to Los Angeles in post-production, and the rest is history. I didn't have a single break in work despite working on projects like show to show, so technically you're out of work after every show ends, but I overlapped and continued working consistently for 7 straight years just based off of connections and people that I met. Like the way I got from my first show to my second show was because our lead Loop Group actor really liked me, and so she introduced me to a post producer who got me onto being Mary Jane at BET, and so it just never stops. The first post supervisor I ever worked with, she really liked me. She recommended me for my next gig after that, which was a pilot at Hulu. And then the post producer from Being Mary Jane was doing a project for TNT, and so I just kept, you got to keep it up. And anyway, I'm rambling. Again, that's how I got into the industry, and that's how I've kept it going. Did you always plan on doing this sort of work? Yes and no. I would say I've always had a desire to work for television. I've always loved television, like loved it. And I've always really been interested. There was a period of time when I was in high school where I wanted to be a writer for SNL. I don't think I'm funny enough for that. A big thing about me is that I'm very anxious and concerned about my own success. And if there's not a clear path forward, it gives me a lot of anxiety. So the thing about working in TV was that because I didn't know anybody and I didn't have a connection, I didn't have that I'm nobody's daughter, I'm just a girl from New Hampshire, I thought it could never be. So I set my sights on something a little less intense. I actually went to college to be a Spanish teacher, but that lasted approximately like 4 weeks, and I knew that that just wasn't what I wanted to do. I eventually just landed on being a communications major because I just feel like that's what a bunch of people do if they don't know what they're doing. But through communications, I found my second major, which was digital media production, and then I just ended up also having enough credits to graduate with the Spanish major because I did like learning the Spanish language, and so I never really stopped, even though I ended up not going the education route. Anyway, long story short, yes and no. I didn't always plan on doing this work, but I think in my heart, I always knew this is the kind of work I needed and wanted to be in. What was your favorite show that you worked on? My favorite show in terms of like my favorite show to tell people that I was on, because I think it's the best, is Julia on HBO Max. I know they just wrapped up their second season because I'm still in good contact with people who work there. And unfortunately, I didn't do the second season because I made the jump to Legendary before that. But I did do season 1 as the post-production supervisor, and it is so cute and so amazing. I just really loved it. I loved working on it, and I love the actual content. It's one of the best shows I think I've ever worked on. Favorite show in terms of like the people and stuff, I did this show Tell Me Your Secrets on Amazon Prime, and I met a lot of great friends friends working on that show, and even though the show itself was kind of difficult, and the most difficult part being that the offices at the time were in Santa Monica, and I lived in Highland Park, so if you're familiar with Los Angeles, that's like a 2.5-hour commute one way. So the commute sucked, but the people that I worked with and met on that show were incredible. What are some examples of your responsibilities as a post-production manager? Oh my god, I have so many. Basically, the biggest part of my job is managing people who do the job that I used to do. So people who are post-production supervisors and post-producers on set on our show's productions, they need guidance from people at the studio. So if we're doing a show, I tell them, you know, the deliverables we're going to need, the archival material we're going to need, the formatting of the credits, the stock libraries they have access to, anything that they might need support-wise, we are there for them. And then Legendary prides itself on being a more boutique and bespoke experience for a production, so we are very hands-on with our post teams. We're in the weeds with them on their schedule, on their budget. We're in the weeds with them on almost every single decision that gets made. We monitor the cuts, we monitor the notes, we are just doing everything all at once for post, you know, from the very beginning of the post workflow, which is during, you know, production prep, all the way until you get it on your TV screen. We don't really stop working. I personally oversee credits for all of our shows. I also personally oversee archive for all of our shows. I also do a lot of workflow stuff, a lot of dailies management. We're doing this pilot right now out of UK, and the editor wants to cut and final cut. This is a problem, and an interesting problem that came across my desk that I've never had to deal with. They do post a lot differently in the UK, and I was on the phone pretty much all day today trying to figure out what the online color workflow would look like coming out of final cut. And I learned so much, but also I was able to help out the production a lot, and that's just like a little mini micro example of like problems that come across my desk that I have to solve all day long. As Legendary is what it is, we have a lot of high VFX shows with a lot of really intense visual effects. So there's a lot of managing of that. And then music, managing of music licensing, tracking music licenses. I don't know, the list goes, I could probably keep talking about my responsibilities for like another 20 minutes, so I'm gonna stop. But that's roughly what I do. How is working for a studio different than working for a show? Do you prefer one? Oh, that's kind of like the other question I was going to answer. So I'll just do this one and then we'll be done. It's very different. It's super different. Working for a show, you of course only have one show that you're working on, even though you have like 10 to 12 to 8 10, 12 episodes, whatever it is, and that you're juggling all at once, and working on a show is a lot of hard work. For me, I'm not so much worried about like episode by episode. I'm more worried about like show by show by show. So instead of having like one show with like a million things going on, I have 6 shows with a million things going on, but I also have a higher level approach to it. So I'm not like on the ground with them. I'm more just like checking in and supporting and helping and using all the knowledge I had from being on the ground to help support in a way that I know would be helpful if I were in their position from my spot. I'll also say, because the next question I was going to answer was pros of going corporate versus freelance, is that working in a studio is corporate. So this is my first corporate job. I get healthcare, I get sick days, I get vacation. In fact, the entire reason I even decided to go corporate and go to the studio level was because I was about to do Julia season 2, and I let the producers know that my wedding was going to be in September, which was right when they were shooting, and that I was going to need a week off. And you don't really get to take time off when you're on a show because you're there with the understanding that the project is only going to last 8 months to a year and a half, and then after that you're going to be unemployed, so you can take your vacation then. Well, the problem is that I never was without a show. So I went years without ever having time off. And I just needed this 1 week for my wedding, right? They weren't going to get it to me. They actually asked if I could get married in May when the hiatus was, which obviously I couldn't. The wedding was half planned. So that's when I was like, I can't do this anymore. I am burning myself out and I need a break. So it was kind of perfect timing. My friend works at Legendary, someone that I worked with back on NCIS New Orleans. It's all about those connections. She remembered me. She worked at Legendary. My job position became open. She let me know. And it was just like kismet, perfect timing. It all worked out. But that's another thing, is that like I get a lot of benefits from being in corporate America. Pay cut. I had to take a little bit of a pay cut, but ultimately work-life balance has been so much better. Anyway, I did not mean to ramble so much. Actually, I meant to start this by putting lip gloss on, and now I've been talking to you guys with dry lips this whole last time. Okay, sorry about that. This would have been better, but I'm not starting over because my voice hurts and I have to edit. See you later. Cool. And good morning. It is almost 8 o'clock. I'm fully ready for work. I have been working on my own Instagram stuff. I need earrings. Should I just wear the same earrings I wore yesterday because they're right in front of me? Yes. I love these little Christmas tree earrings. and this is the only time of year I can wear them, so I wear them a lot. I was concerned when I got dressed this morning that I looked like the Joker, but my husband has told me that's not the case. So fingers crossed no one thinks that when they look at me today. Today's just a normal work day. I woke up at 6, but I got up at 6:30, and then yeah, I got ready, and I've just been making little reels for my Instagram. So plug for my Instagram. Let's get this bread. I forgot to end the video yesterday. I honestly forgot to film pretty much anything after I got to work. Beethoven. I have a zit on my chin, which is why I'm holding my face like this because I think I'm starting my period next week. Anyway, that's too much information. I'm gonna go. See you guys in the next vlog. I'm getting ready for a holiday party and I'm not gonna look like this. I promise. Okay. Bye.